for them to run for elective positions. It allows parastatals heads to conduct advisory on state officers. Party Secretary General cites a court ruling also on the matter, and citing the High Court's judgment. The letter pointed out, if I may just go back, it says that in a letter from Malala to AG Muturi dated September 19th, he pointed out that a discrepancy between the Attorney General's advisory opinion and High Court judgment in the case of Katiba Institute and another versus the Attorney General. Citing the High Court judgment, the letter pointed out that the state corporations generate the revenue for expenditure, and the funding is not necessarily wholly provided for by Parliament. But you can just grab a copy of the Standard to get all the details there regarding this, because where do we draw the line when it comes to Mwongozo Code, where we have also the Public and the Ethics Act regarding how the parastatals or some of its public officers should be aligned when it comes to politics. Let's just watch this particular issue more robustly, where it begins. I wanted just to begin with you, Ruben Kigame, because your quest and your drive for this presidency that you're running for is the fact that you want to exonerate Kenya from, first of all, the politics of exploitation and the politics of deception. Maybe you want to just unbundle that for us.
So the first thing I ask myself is, do we have separation of powers? Because some of these challenges, like what you're highlighting with the Mwongozo directives here, have got to do with separation of powers. And who listens to who? In a system where the executive calls the shots, even in Parliament, the way we pass issues and so on. So that's my major concern lies. Now, secondly, we have the issue of political parties that are cosmetic. You do not have political parties with particular ideology that you could separate from another political party. And so what UDA is doing is really survival politics, because you cannot enumerate and say this is what UDA stands for and will stand for in 5 years, 10 years to come. So there's a lot of metamorphosis, internal metamorphosis, when it comes to political structures. In fact, I can tell you that right from the multi-party era up to this time, you cannot name one consistent political formation. And even tomorrow, whatever we know today, for example, as Azimio, will not be there, because we form political parties and take decisions like what you are highlighting on the basis of convenience. So the last thing for me that that concerns me is, in all these things, where is Mwananchi? Because we make all these decisions to favor certain individuals within the political structures, but the issues of Mwananchi are always on the back burner. So we are, even if you went all the way to the bilateral talks, you see the issues of Mwananchi are coming last. As long as we don't mainstream Mwananchi, you can talk all you want about political changes and preferences and who can run for this and who can't run. At the end of the day, it's about delivery of service to the citizens. And this government has shown us that citizens are not priority. If you cannot prioritize citizens for whom you are in office, you should get out.
You should get out. Right, Professor Gitel Naituli.
First of all, some of these things are outrightly illegal. I think maybe there is a determination to make this country a banana republic, and they stop following the law. Some of the things you have put there, if you look at Article 77, sub-Article 2, and I want to read it for clarity. Any appointed state officer shall not hold office in a political party. Now, the reason for that is very simple. We need a professional public service, which basically serves the country, serves the government of the day. So when you start regressing back to the old constitution or whatever, the old way of doing things, then we have a problem. And I want to agree with the Kagame 100% that until a day when Kenyans will behave like those fellows in Malawi, one day they woke up, they went, the students actually, the university, they went to look for some guy called Isakwera, and they told him, we need you to run for president. He told them we didn't have money. They said, you run anyway. He ran and eventually was elected. So until we reach there, where we will get somebody who seriously, as a leader, can feel the pain of the people of Kenya, then we will continue debating these issues which we don't need to debate. Because, you see, whether it's wanting CEOs and the board members to join a certain party, or whether it's spending public money in a way that you never have spent your own money, it all boils down to the fact that we have converted public service to personal service. So I want to agree with the government completely that our culture, it needs to be transformed totally so that we can run away from transactional way of dealing with public decisions to a transformative way of making public decisions. To do that, you will need a chief executive of the republic who is completely committed to the ideals of transformative leadership.
Right.
Yeah, according to me, and I can tell you that if you look at all these things and you can do a serious root cause analysis, it boils down to the politics of identity. The issue of now you have to identify with the UDA. Then now you can actually say, because according to me, when Malala is saying that the CEOs should be allowed to join UDA, actually he is telling you the reverse, that to qualify for being a CEO, you should be a member of UDA. But he's trying to pretend that now you as a CEO, for example, if I'm a CEO and I don't subscribe to UDA, and if I don't join UDA, will I remain a CEO? So the politics of identity is a big issue in this country. You identify with a certain tribe, then, and again, even after identifying their tribe, you go to, for example, the county where I come from, which is Siaya. You have to say, for example, if the governor is coming from Ugenya, which is James Orengo, then now identity shows that the senator must come from Bondo, which is Oburu Odinga. Then the women must come from Game, which is somebody, I don't know, Obaka. And then even if you go deeper to the MCA, even now there's about clan. Then from clan we go to family. The person who brought this thing or identity politics really killed us. And according to me, whether you become from which tribe or not, and I'm trying to tell people we need to change the conversation, that the issue of inclusivity should not be about tribe. Because someone tells you, oh, Kikuyus, you have been given this, oh, Luos, you have been given that. There is nothing which has been given to Luos. It has been given to an individual to serve the country. And there's no bank account for Luos, there's no bank account for Kambas, no bank account for Luyas. The whole thing about identity politics, which was implanted here by I think, colonial masters, we should just sit down as a nation and start disengaging from it, because that's what is creating the whole thing. And according to me, if you look at the Mwongozo Act, it's very clear that state officials should be separated from politics. And that's why even when you run for political office, normally you are required to resign by a certain date before you run. So if you are an official of UDA, you're a politician, because those posts will be contested. And then you'll be sitting in a political office, making political decisions, and yet at the same time you are serving Kenyans. Why should you have even these double jobs? Does it mean that there are some people now outside the state corporation to work? But let me tell you what, why we have a serious crisis at the moment. How does William Ruto look at his government? William Ruto looks at the government of people whom he has to reward because they help him to ascend to this office, and also those he has to attract to keep being in that office. So all these people are campaign managers. If you look at the cabinet, they are politicians, they are campaign managers. Look at the PSS, the same. You go even to the CAS, they were supposed to be campaign managers. Now he has to extend his campaign manager team to the CEOs. And I think that where will we stop counting? It will end up that anybody serving in the government, first of all, you must show him the UDA ticket. And maybe he learned from Moi a little bit. KANU ilikuwa mama na baba. And now UDA will become mama na baba. So if you are not having this, cannot work. You go to Uganda, if you want to have a very good meeting with the president, put on some yellow thing in you, either a tie or something, just put yellow somewhere. And I'm sure that in Kenya soon it will be like, if you don't have anything yellow in you, you must be opposing me. And I think that this mentality is gone. Remember how KANU used to be prominent, whereby everybody would put on a hat with red, with Njogo on it, you look more interesting. And I think that the president was a very good student of Moi. And being a youth for KANU 92, one of the founders or one of the leading elites, I'm sure he has taken this seriously. And I have been telling people that the following two people are your enemies. The first enemy is someone who tells you that the problem we have now has been created by this government. No, this problem was planted in 1992. And it has just been now, we are now reaping the fruits of this problem. Now we are just eating the sour grapes which have been planted. The second person you should not listen to, and I'm thinking, Kigame, that's where we come in, and I want us to find a way forward. Anybody who has been inside the government telling you they can now solve the problem is a liar. Because if you look at the year 2002, Kibaki was the president, Kalonzo was the vice president, Raila Odinga was prime minister. Can you just look at that structure? Now, Raila and Kalonzo are outside, and now they are the solutions to, they believe they can really have a magic formula to solve our problems. And not just Raila. These people, Musalia Mudavadi, Wetangula, they have been there since 1992. Yeah. And they have created the problem we have now. Golden bag. According to Albert Einstein, they said, you can't solve the problem using the same tools that have created it. So if these leaders who have created our problems at the moment, they can't solve it even if they sit in parliament or they sit in Bomas.
Right,
but let me talk about the two friends, because after talking about the enemies, you have to talk about two friends. The two friends in this country should just be decency. Let parliament be parliament. Let every Kenyan be a Kenyan. Pay taxes, do your role. You are a teacher, you're a teacher. You're a doctor, you're a doctor. Let's have values there. And another second friend that we need to have is opportunity. When there's decency and opportunity, we can solve this problem. The solution is not that complex. We can solve it.
Right.
But as we continue with these two enemies and we avoid these two friends, it's difficult. And to tell you, Professor, the problem is that a country begets a government it has. Those people you're blaming to be corrupt, they are from family. If all our families already do not even inculcate values in ourselves.
Thank you.
So then it is the same thing you're seeing in the outside world there.
All right, so violation of Article 77 of the Constitution, subsection 2, as just pointed out, any appointed state officer shall not hold office in a political party. And this is just flying in the face of what the Constitution has stipulated. And I'm putting up also the Mwongozo Code. A bit of it, when you go to the Code of Conduct and Ethics as well, you have conflict of interest there. And there's sub-article 3.1, where they say board members and employees maintain public confidence in objectivity of their service. Let me just put it in full. By preventing and avoiding situations that could give the appearance of a conflict of interest or result in a potential or actual conflict of interest. In addition, board members and employees are required to observe any specific conduct requirements contained in the statutes governing ethical behavior and the profession where applicable. It's not possible to foresee any situation that could give rise to real, apparent, or potential conflict of interest. However, where conflict arises, the board members or employees should excuse themselves or anyone who works for them for any decision making that may create a conflict of interest with their private interest. Now, where do we draw the demarcation line between, if Malala will be telling these officers that you are free to run for the elective post, is it a private issue? Is it a private interest? Or is it a public interest? That is where we want to draw a demarcation line. So if I run for those elective seats as a CEO of a certain parastatal, am I running it as a CEO, or it's me? And if it's me, then this is purely a violation also of the Code of Conduct and Ethics in the Mwongozo Code. What do you think, Kibruto Rapkiro?
Yeah, Dibal, it is important for us to say we are occupying a space where there are various statutes that have already been put in place. Perhaps President Moi will be excused to have done what he did, because by then we are operating under a different constitution.
Exactly.
And KANU was the only party in town until 1992, when we removed Section 2A. Today, it is not even imaginable, and I just pray it is Malala, with the excitement of the youth and the challenges that he may not have lived long enough to understand what he's quoting. We would accuse him. But if that is in the mind of the organization called UDA, right from the leadership at the top to the grassroots, it is a dangerous route that we cannot allow as the people of this country. We should not allow, because we've moved so many ways in terms of putting the 2010 Constitution and various legislations that they are already in place, including Chapter 6 and whatever you've quoted. And this therefore means we are saying we have chosen to be a dictatorship under the constitutional order, which really is not even a good sentence in English. You cannot be a dictatorship under the constitution. Now, number two, let's understand, these political parties, for the last 20 years, no political formation has formed the government twice. For the last 20 years. And this therefore tells you these political parties are convenient vessels to arrive at an election day. Being convenient vessels, they do not have any roots in the hearts of the people. They also do not have any ideological underpinning that allows them to exist beyond the life of a politician. In short, they are just a convenient coalition of tribes or amalgamation of some individuals who want to take away power from the people for their own exclusive interest. Now, in any political formation that is taken seriously, what is lacking in our system is trust. We lack trust. That's why even the Kenya Kwanza, from the cartoon that you showed us, there were so many things flying, whether they are toilet, whatever, and from the house, because we lack trust. If there was effective trust, Kenya Kwanza today should be a very strong coalition, because they are in government, and therefore they would also be able to transit in the current outfit. Now, if members of UDA will be allowed to contest while they work in parastatals, how about those of ANC? How about those of PA? How about those of Fort Kenya? And so forth. It means we are making rules, different rules for different players within the same team. So in short, I think Malala, to say the least, is just an excited youth who does not understand that this country needs more serious people. And if the leadership is condoning him,
my brother,
then it is a crime.
I think totally differently, Dibab. On this, let me just throw it in real quick. Anytime you hear Malala speak, or Moses Kuria, or even the deputy president, when they make pronouncements, they're actually speaking on behalf of their boss. There's no way a deputy president, there's no way Moses Kuria, there's no way Malala can make that statement if that is not what Ruto wants. He would stop them.
Exactly.
So let's not imagine that this is a Malala thing. That's what they want. But lastly, the issue of consistency. If last year I told you this, then this year I tell you the opposite. This year we stand for this as a party. Next year we stand for this. If you are a citizen of Kenya and you continue to trust these people to deliver leadership forget it. It will not happen. They want a dictatorship. They want a Kanu style, relic of leadership, but they are testing it on people. Even that, extension of the presidential term. That is what Ruto wants. He would stop them if he really wanted different.
Indeed. And I wanted just to raise, because you have also Kiro talking about, you should just let it off, let it just pass because he's a youth. And I'm reminded of David Foster. I know Kigame can actually relate with that. David Foster with his song, my Christmas wish list is, there's a phrase there where he says, what is this illusion called? The innocence of youth. Maybe only in our own blind belief. Should we ever find the truth? Yeah, it's totally an illusion, of the innocence of the youth. So we should just let them be, and we'll never find the truth if you actually go with that particular mantra that he's just a young man, he's not lived enough. So some of these excuses should just
they are hired.
Just allow me to say this. The two of you are choir masters on your own right, and I always keep on learning. I had not seen that there is some heinous deed that is likely to visit our town. I was looking at it as squarely Malala. If the president is thinking about that, then he's courting revolution in Kenya.
But as a politician as well of your own provenance, that you just don't say anything. You have to, even you don't just perceive it the way that you should be perceiving it. You have to look at the layered message that is behind it. Right? Isn't it, at the end of the day?
We keep on learning.
We keep on learning. In the areas of leadership, we have two types of leaders. We have hunters and we have farmers. Now, the hunter never hunts any value because he's an hunter. He just takes. The farmer is the patient. First, the farmer multiplies. Whether you give him cows or multiply cows. You give him sins, multiply the sins. So what is happening here, Bwana Kirua, is we have hunters. Okay, we don't have farmers in our setup. What we should be asking ourselves is, how is it that we have produced only hunters? Because at least good people should produce a mix of hunters and farmers. But we have produced majority, not actually nearly all of them, hunters. How did we manage that?
Right, Professor Gola?
I just want to say that before the election, those of us who were on television started talking about the making of a dictator. And if you just look at the documentary of the making of a dictator, you can see that script clearly. So if you're talking about the issue of looking at the revolution, we are making a dictator in this country. And if you just look at Malala, you can actually say there's this guy called Joseph Goebbels, who was the chief propagandist for Hitler. And we see these people here, Moses Korea, they are playing that role. Malala, they are not as good as Joseph, but they are
playing the same script.
They are doing it.
Yeah.
And the problem with Kenya Kwanza, which I think I need to educate them on this live television, is they're not good at it. Because they even talk away, if you say they are free, freedom from where? The Constitution is clear, isn't it? Where all our freedom is in the Constitution. And that's why, Debal, you've always heard me saying that Linda Jamii, we are partisan to the Constitution because that's what should guide us. Is Malala here partisan to the Constitution? Like if you look at all this being mentioned, and I'm afraid that there's this kind of bombers that are people saying they want to work together is on the front page, how Ruto and Raila can work together. Could we foresee these people trying to remove some of the freedom which are already created? Who is Malala to give somebody freedom? We position of Malala in this country, what is it that he can give somebody freedom to? So this propaganda, Mara Cheragei said that the term should be 7 years. You can see so many people within Kenya Kwanza starting to mention certain things which are very sensitive matters. And I'm thinking about it that now we should even look for a legislation that people who are public officials, when they talk about some of this, they should be prosecuted.
Yeah.
Because which kind of freedom are you giving people here? And you are creating an anarchy in a country. Why should people have double job when others have no jobs? And the people who have come to those CEOs of parastatals, who has appointed them? They have been appointed by the government, isn't it? because they are put in a gazette notice appointed by the ministry, a minister gazettes them. Now, if a minister has been appointed by the president, then the minister appoints CEOs. Are we not finding that we are even doing more damage to this country whereby we are not separating politics from state? And I think that people need to know that when they took over office, the priority for Kenya Kwanza should be delivering to the people, but not these things now, political parties. And I'll tell Malala, Raila Odinga is not a fool. Do you know why ODM has never held election for I don't know how many years? Tell me when the last election in ODM took place. Anytime you are going through an election, you will antagonize the party. Because when you see that cartoon which you showed there, the chaos with which UDA was created is the chaos in which it can arise if you talk about anything like UDA. I can see that the president is under UDA, and now Kenya Kwanza is just now a slogan, but the party is actually UDA. Remember that the guys like Moses Wetangula have to start being careful with this kind of statement from Malala. You have to see that the guys like Musalia Mudavadi, you have to be being careful because of statements Moses Kura is making. Power of Kingi will also, do they also have CEOs in this government? Will they now be told now for you to become a CEO, remain a CEO, you must be a member of power? Right. So for me, the issue of governance needs to be really addressed in a serious way. Leadership and governance is a big issue in this country. And I believe that people like Malala, don't even call him a youth. That person is a propaganda, and that propaganda is being marshaled from State House. He's the mouthpiece of the president. And I can tell you, all of us know William Ruto. William Ruto is not someone who can just allow you to say whatever you want to say and get away with it. And the media has done a good job. I remember the media asked him, please, what do you make of the statement from Moses Korea? Did the president support? He just told him that he has people to fight for him. That's the same he said. So when you hear this statement coming from Malala, those are his propaganda is doing it. But I want to urge Kenya Kwanza, please do it in a way that we can believe at least you're doing a propaganda. A good propaganda is a propaganda that is believable. But a bad propaganda, this one of the likes of the guys in Kenya Kwanza, if they don't know propaganda, let them come for a lesson. They'll be taught how to come with a good propaganda that can be believed. That's why Goebbels did it for Hitler, and people believe that Hitler was saving the world, yet he was killing people.
Thank you. We just want to hear a statement from, just a moment, we just want to hear a statement from Martha Karua regarding also the cost of living, where she is faulting the Kenya Kwanza government for failing to keep their campaign pledges on lowering the cost of living. And speaking at the party headquarters in Nairobi during a Women League workshop, the party leadership noted that situations has left women suffering the most due to the skyrocketing cost of living.
You want to push down the tax down our throats, and you want to again circumvent the law. Like I said, the issue of cost of living for us is paramount, because any nation stands tall and stands in the middle of the entire crisis that we're going through. It stands and thrives if we have an economic reform agenda. I don't see the Kenya government doing an economic reform agenda. The economy is dwindling, and we as women are the custodians. When you have your children without bread and butter, or ugali, or even sukuma wiki, your children don't have jobs. That means then the crime rate is high. This is the reason why we see our young people each day committing suicide, even at the high levels of education. The mental health is at the highest due to the social and economic stigma imposed upon us by the Kenya government.
As much as you go around the country giving promises, fake promises, promising heaven that you cannot deliver, please, these lies are affecting women. And you're going to kill us because of the lack of food. Our children will be miserable. You will have an increase of street children because of lack of education.
You see the face of Martha Karua there, but those were sentiments, of course, from the party as it stands right now. Just adding to what we're discussing on the skyrocketing cost of living as it is, and women also lending their own voice there. Well, we are on the tail end of a program, but addressed the issue of the National Lands Commission and the bill that is upcoming that wants to hive off some of the functions of the National Lands Commission as it is, where the CS will be having the carte blanche, of course, on land allocation when it comes to the government. What does that really portend in light of where we are at, and of course, some of the cases that we've so far observed? Let's just begin with you, Kipruto Rapkiro.
You know, Dibal, some of the people in town did not believe in the current constitution, because the Land Commission is one of the bodies under the constitution that is supposed to be protected by the constitution. Taking the work of the Lands Commission and giving it to a minister is akin to what they were talking about yesterday or the other day, that they want Parliament not to be involved in making decisions about privatization of certain public institutions. Mm-hmm. It is a dangerous move. It is a move that Kenyans must reject. Reject in the sense that you cannot give the role of a commission to a minister, because a minister is a direct appointee of the president and does not have the protection of the constitution. A commission, if it is worth its salt, ought to fight for that space, because they are insulated by the constitution from any wrongdoing by any individual. But if you allow a minister to do that, then we are creating another scam in town, the way we created the scam of allowing ministers to make decisions without the involvement of Parliament. Mm-hmm. It is something that we as a people of Kenya, we must reject.
So is the president making good his promise? Because we've heard him very categorically saying that he was intending to do this, and now we can see there is a legislation that is putting tails on it.
But president has a reputation for huge appetite for land, and when he does that to a commission, that appetite is actually being increased, in the sense that he needs a bigger chunk of land to do whatever he's doing. So it worries me. If it was another president who has respect for public land, I would not mind.
All right. Let's hear from Prof. Briefly.
Article 255, Article G. These are protected sections where to change anything you need a referendum.
The independence of judiciary.
If you look at Article 255, it says that a lot of gone approved in accordance with the clause 2 by a referendum if the amendment relate to any of the following matters. Now, if it relate to the independence of the judiciary and the commissions and independent offices to which Chapter applies. We have two independent offices, the Office of the Controller on Budget and the Auditor General. So we have also the commissions under Chapter 15. The Land Commission is one of those. You can't touch any functions assigned by this document, by the basic law to those. So I think someone need to advise the people around the president to please read this document, because they will take the law to Parliament. Probably Parliament will pass it, and somebody will go to court, and the court will strike it as inconsistent with the constitution. Mm-hmm. So it will not make sense. And I believe also in these negotiations they are doing, I hope they have made a determination whether they want to go parliamentary or to stay presidential, because they will not be able to pass the leader of the opposition in Parliament. I don't know which route that they can use, or the Prime Minister, because that will change the structure of government. It's all protected under Article 255.
The basic structure of government.
The basic structure of government is protected. It can only be changed by the Kenyans. It can't be changed by Parliament.
I wanted to hear from Kigame as well. Why this obsession with changing of his law? The president seems to be very particularly intent with this neurosis of a change of his law to hand it over to the CS of land.
I'll be very brief, because I really hope you talk about the post office. I can see time is done.
Yeah. The post office, indeed.
Yeah, because you see, that anything that touches Kenyans, I'm interested in. Anything that touches the dictatorship of the president, we don't want. That's it. So that you can't take the work of an institution and give it to an individual. That's as much as I'll say. Now, when it comes to the people of Kenya, if you are not going to be in office to improve the lives of the people of Kenya, then forget it. you should get out. I keep saying, if you don't want to serve Kenyans, get out of office, because there are people who want to. And secondly, anytime you see a dictatorial tendency, you know, what Kenyans don't understand is who a dictator is. A dictator says, this is what I want and I'll do it, no matter what you say and no matter what you do to me. So you kill institutions because you want to be in control. We should never allow the Constitution to be violated. So if you just allow me, the reason why the post office workers are going on strike right now is only a microcosmic representation of every other institution. They have not been paid for 5 months. I can tell you, in media companies, in parastatals all over, even within the private sector, people are having the pinch because of wrong economic decisions. Now, instead of improving the lives of Kenyans, we no longer know where we are going. And I will just hitchhike on what Professor said earlier on. Where are we going? Even with the post office workers going on strike, what will happen tomorrow? Who can do anything about them? Nothing. As long as we don't have a vision of where we're going, as long as we cannot return issues back to the people, thinking about how they impact the people, we should not be in government.
We should not be in government, indeed. Okay. Do you also stand with the idea that 111 billion shillings should be set aside for the bailing out of parastatals? One of which is post office. I think 1 billion shillings. That is what I saw. That is needed to bail it out. I don't know.
Dibal, our problem is not money. You don't solve a problem by throwing money at it. So just waking up one morning, how did they even arrive at that, the 111? And then we don't need bailouts. What we need is the hiring of qualified people to run our institutions. We need qualified people to run government. And then once they get into office, don't interfere with them. Let them run the government.
Right. Ogola, on the issue of bailing out and the post office or the postal workers' demise as well?
Yeah, I am. First of all, you have to know that these public parastatals by nature, they are monopolies. And then secondly, they serve public good. So that's why you find out that there's always this situation whereby when they're not performing well, people said we should either privatize them or we should be able to do a bailout. And remember that either way you still bail out. So according to me, the issue is just that, how true is it? And I want to tell you that bailing out this parastatal is very simple and it's not as complicated as it is. But what are we bailing out? Are we bailing out where someone has looted, then we bail out? We are just topping theft, we top up. So is it a top up or actually is a real cash bail? You know, there is no bailout policy in Kenya. If you go to the US during the global financial crisis, when companies were hit by it, there was a very clear policy. So I don't know whether my senior here, you know, with all respect, you know, you served in all of us seated here, probably I will say you've served at the highest level. What is the bailout policy in Kenya? Is there something very clear how we do it? Because we cannot just we bail out depending on who is in office.
Yeah,
there must be a process. I like process systems and structures so that we depersonalize functions of government. So that whether Fred is there or Kigame is there or Kirwa is there, it works. We institutionalize. If you look at what saved the US under Trump was strong institutions, where military went and told him, my brother, we don't do allegiance to the head of state, we give it to the Constitution and people of America. And for us here, everything looks at the head of state. Like now, look at the education sector. It looks like him, everything smells him. You go to the parastatal, it smells, looks him. When Ruru was there, it smelled him, it looked him. When Moi was there, the same. Kibaki was the same. How can we just have the public service that is Kenyan, not smelling anybody? And let me tell you, President Ruto has enough money to bail out. So the issue is not money. Because the president has borrowed 1.3 trillion since he joined office. He has collected 3.9 trillion since he joined office. That's 4.9 trillion. The biggest mega projects this country has ever had are three. One is Thika Highway. Two is SGR. Thika Highway was 24 billion. Expressway was around 26 billion. The SGR was 403 billion. Remember, all that collected together is just about 450 billion.
Yeah.
If 450 billion can do the biggest project in history of Kenya, there's none that Ruto is doing, and he has collected 4.9 trillion.
Yeah.
Do you know, most of us here don't know how many zeros are in a trillion. And most Wanjikus, border people don't know. Where is he taking the money? The theft in this country is there. And let me tell you what, these people have looted those parastatals. Now then they want to top up. Again, then they top up. Then again, they top up. According to me, we should have a policy on what are the matrices. For example, American came with something called too big to fail or too important to fail. So that matrix will come and says, whenever this happens, that's happened. And then secondly, why must we wait for them to collapse is when we want to bail them out.
Yeah.
Are there people who are proactively thinking that these could fail? In fact, another way of looking at loans is that these loans we take, precautionary loans are loans taken by either a government or a pastor to save them. Could they take some funding, come with some innovation within the corporation so that they don't have to go to being bailed? So even SCAC is there to do what's called monitoring evaluation. Could they, SCAC not tell them, the way you are moving, 6 months down the line, you may need to be bailed out. What do we need to do to stop being bailed out?
Thank you.
So for me, that's my main concern. Preventive. We cannot always be like, we have to die first, then we do postmortem.
Right, thank you. All right, let's just get our closing remarks as well, and think. I think is from his book, Jim Collins, The Mighty Fall. The falling doesn't just happen, by happenstance or a snap of a finger. You must have seen the cracks through the wall, the way the cars will go until they're always writing on the wall that actually you are failing. So when they come to a position of being bailed out, does it make any lick of sense? Even when you ask, where is the transparency? Do we just let the CEO be exonerated? There's no reprimanding, no one is going to jail, and then we're throwing in 1 billion shillings because we want to salvage this particular organization. We're talking about Mumias, we're talking about Kenya Airways, which is asking, or it has given a profit warning that in light also of the dollar, the way it is losing to the shilling, there will be huge losses. Yet we want to throw some monies again to Kenya Airways. Your closing remarks.
Transparency, accountability, Article 10.
Right.
And integrity.
That speaks
in
volumes.
between the control of budget. If you listen to her, she said she can't understand the money being borrowed for where the purpose for which it is borrowed. She said that her only salary was budgeted 3 times what she needs, and then she said when she checked, that is true for every public office. So right there, it tells you there is a huge problem.
A very tough remark as we're winding up. Just briefly, your closing remarks.
Mine is that I'm just urging Kenyans that it's a Solomonic moment that we need to wake up and really ask the right questions, and let us not just listen to people who are giving us propaganda, because I think Kenya is very educated population, and let us use our education, intelligence and knowledge to really serve our nation, but not against our nation.
Thank you. Right.
Well, basically the challenge in Kenya is lack of effective leadership. We need to separate the leadership of various institutions from political interference. That's the only way you can get good answers. And what Malala is saying is part of that problem of governing the leadership of UDA in parastatus.
Right. Ruben Kigame, finally, your closing remarks.
For me, Kenya Kwanza and Azimio are not the answers. We need another way of doing government. A way of responsibility, a way of values, where we put people first. And if, as Kenyans, you don't give a third alternative a chance, you'll be here crying for a very, very long time.
Thank you. Gentlemen, I really do appreciate your input this morning, very incisive. And of course, we continue our pace analyzing what is happening currently in our country as far as the leadership is concerned. This is Uongozi Today. And they always say in essentials, unity, in non-essentials, of course, liberty, and in all things, charity. So I'll leave it for you to decipher that as well as we leave you with the soapbox. Thank you for your valued company. You've been watching Uongozi Today here on Morning Prime. Don't go away. Also, News Diary will be doggedly following the soapbox.
The wrongdoings of the past are a cause of the greatest sorrow and the deepest regret.
We cannot live as prisoners of the past. Neither can we go far into the future if we turn our backs on history and historical actions and omissions whose legacies encumber our present.
It matters greatly to me that I should deepen my own understanding of these wrongs, and that I meet some of those whose lives and communities were so grievously affected.
As the Gipsigis community, there has been a distorted history that seems to paint Mau Mau to have been the only fighters for independence.
Since colonial time, the Sabots have sought to have the historical land question resolved.